How much do you spend on like groceries, electricities, and heatings? You don't want to talk about it?
Yeah, that is the easiest way to radicalize Americans is just show them your bills. Show them your bills. China, you guys don't understand. Like American journalists can't do their job because they'll ask Chinese people, "Oh, what's your life like?" And they'll just be like, "Oh, it's normal." And like everything that's normal to Chinese people is so extraordinary and just like we would never have imagined it. This has never been done before in human history. This amount of production in 17% of the world's population, 10% of the world's arable land, 60% of the world's vegetables. Jing Jing, what are you guys doing here? What is going on?
This is Dante Munoz, a vlogger from New York, popular for his contents on China and the US.
China is one hell of a developing country because you could be talking to farmers in a rural village one moment, then the next thing you know, the high-speed rail is dropping you off in yet another mind-blowing megacity. Chinese people don't believe me when I say that we don't have high-speed rail in the United States. I tried to tell them that while they were busy building 2/3 of the whole world's high-speed rail, we were spending all of our money on the war in Afghanistan.
Hi, Dante. I saw you being everywhere. You visited Beijing, Harbin, Chengdu, Shanghai, many cities in China. You've been everywhere. And I watched some of your videos on TikTok, Douyin, Xiaohongshu, showing the stories, everyday life of people in China. Very interesting. To start off, can you share with us some of the most shocking experience you witnessed in China compared to the lifestyle back in the States?
The most shocking thing that happened to me in China happened to me today. I was at a shopping center and they had a fully automated ice cream truck. They did, I'm not kidding. The ice cream truck drives up and it has all these different samples for you, like different things you can get. You scan the QR code with your phone and you choose and it pays automatically. And it's like announcing to people in Chinese and English, please try our ice cream, come have a taste. Like, it was so
Americans
cute.
love ice cream.
Americans love ice cream, but we hate automation. It's taking the ice cream truck drivers' jobs.
So you get these machines, robots to do this job, so people can do other jobs, like focus on jobs that use your creation.
Yeah,
Right?
well, that and also coffee shops. Chinese people love coffee shops. There are literally at that same shopping center, coffee shops on top of coffee shops. I had to go through the Mishui to go upstairs to like a little local, like it's called Treehouse Coffee Shop above it. You have to like go through all the delivery people to go to another coffee shop. The funny thing is, it's related because that whole shopping center used to be a factory right here in Beijing, which is kind of hard to imagine with how much that real estate is worth these days and how much housing is being built all over Beijing that you could have a factory right in the middle of it now. It's changing, you know?
I watched some of your videos talking about, say, like the grandpas dancing in the parks,
Yeah.
EV cars factory, a lot of things. And you also talk about like safety in China. Many of the things that we Chinese who live in China didn't even think about that words making a story about. So
You guys don't understand. Like American journalists can't do their job because they'll ask Chinese people, "Oh, what's your life like?" And they'll just be like, "Oh, it's normal." And like everything that's normal to Chinese people is so extraordinary and just like we would never have imagined it.
like what? What are things that you witnessed that are so normal in China, but probably not normal in the United States or anywhere
Well,
else?
people just like leave their laptops around their purses. Like, you know, if you're gonna get up and go to the restroom, even if you're sitting outside, just leave your purse there. You know, no one is gonna take it, and if they tried to, they would get caught, you know? And the other thing is so many services. You can get things delivered incredibly quickly and incredibly affordably in China. And it's all super high tech and efficient. So, for example, you can even get library books delivered for free in China.
Yeah.
They have 24-hour library book vending machines. And I
Yes.
talk to people here about that, and they're like, you don't have that? You don't have library book vending machines where you scan the QR code and a delivery driver comes by on a scooter, takes your book to your house for free?
Yeah,
We don't have that.
because it's not like some hat tag. U.S. as a very developed country, they have all the hat tag technologies, everything you have. Like it's not difficult to build.
It's not difficult to build,
Yeah.
but it's not profitable in a direct way. I think the United States is really, our whole system is focused on short-term profits, right? And China is a very old society. They've been through a lot, they've overcome a lot, and they are positioned to focus on long-term goals. The United States, the politicians have to watch their back every 4-year election cycle so they can make sure they get reelected and kind of do the loud, flashy policies to get people to like them, and make a lot of false promises too. And nothing really gets thought about in the long term. And the majority of things that affect everyday people's lives in the United States are decisions being made by corporations, private industries anyway. So they're not thinking about the long term. They're trying to turn a profit and compete and buy up their competition.
Okay, this question, people in the US probably gonna won't like it, but I'm gonna ask you just like, do you think there are some things that China is doing right that the US can learn from?
Yeah, I think that China has done a really good job of separating politics and economics. You know, no system is perfect, and when you have a country that is 1.4 billion people, you know, there's a lot of gray areas, a lot of things moving in one direction, moving back. But, you know, they made a lot of their strategic industries that could be used against their own interest controlled by the government. And so in the United States, for example, our oil industry, how many wars have we gone to for oil profits to secure like oil rights in the Middle East and to destabilize their competition and all this kind of stuff? That's a life and death kind of problem. And Memorial Day just passed in the United States, and I'm seeing videos of widows talking about losing their husbands in these oil wars in the Middle East. And it's tragic. It's really sad how chasing those profits for that industry that our whole economy relies on. It's such an important industry. We really can't afford not to prioritize it, right? Like, 'cause, and we can't, and the people who own this industry can't afford to move away from fossil fuels toward green energy either. And meanwhile, China has not been at war for a very long time. And instead of spending so many billions of dollars, trillions maybe even, on war, they spend it on infrastructure and they spent it on education. They spent it on building their country and investing in their people.
Because you mentioned the library vending machines, it's just there. It's a public facility. Anyone can get that. You can either get a book from the vending machine or scan the QR code, order some book, and then they will deliver to your door. I think we have such facilities because we have a huge campaign of just encouraging people to read more books, and that directly from the encouragement from our president, just like encourage people to just read more books. And he himself is a book lover. You're right. In the past 4 decades, 5 decades, China spent so much money investing in its own people. For example, all of us are required to do this 9 years of compulsory educations from elementary school right to high schools. 9 years of compulsory education, you have to go. So that's how our illiteracy rate dropped dramatically
Jing jing.
since the founding of PRC.
The United States illiteracy rate is rising. And I don't think Americans, like maybe no one in the world is really paying attention to this. The last time I checked, it was around 20%. American adults cannot read a paragraph and tell you what it was about.
Huh?
Almost 1 in 5 Americans cannot read a paragraph. That's called functionally illiterate. They can't read a paragraph and tell you what it was about. And we have all of these problems with social media, you know, fake news, and we're telling people, you know, fact check, go look it up, Google it, research, do your own research. They literally can't. They can't do their own research. They can't fact check things. They cannot have reading comprehension. They cannot read a paragraph and tell you what it was about. So many Americans.
Uh, mm,
That's true. That's true. Please look it up if you don't believe me. Functionally illiterate.
I don't get it because America is a developed country and English is the first language of people in this
And
nation.
the only language of many Americans.
Yeah, and English is my second language that I learned very like much later in my life,
Mm.
and we all learn how to write theses, write thesis, how to
Thesis,
summarize.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not the strongest in my English, but still I can do those things. But what do you mean when Americans cannot do that? Just like I don't believe you.
You've talked to Americans though. You've read their comments on your posts.
I know. I mean,
It's unbelievable. I remember when I learned this fact, whenever I told people about it, I was constantly like looking it up again and again.
so what was the reason that caused that though?
The right wing in the United States historically has been attacking education, public education. They kind
Why
of,
would someone attack education?
because we have democracy.
Free
So,
to attack anything?
so no, because if voters can read, then they can research what their politicians are doing to them. Also, because they don't want to spend money on education. The government, they're trying to lower government spending as much as possible. In the short term, anything can get cut. Anything that's not going to cause the whole country to collapse in the short term. But in the long term, having 1 in 5 Americans be functionally illiterate is really bad. It's really bad for productivity as well. And it's also really bad ethically. Literacy is such a gift. It's so empowering to people. It's freedom.
Is that why that recently they start to dismantle the Department of Education, also attacking universities like Harvard, stop them from enrolling international students because they want to attack the elites who are well read and well educated?
It's a lot of things. Yeah, I think the more educated you are, the better you are at speaking out or against these systems or understanding these systems. And so they're just associating being attacked with education. So the schools are indoctrinating people to attack us, is what they feel.
It's interesting. I want to bring this because I think I told my other friends from different countries because the Western media or the United States also fear mongering about China's military power. They always make the fuss about how much China invests in military, but China invests in military for national defense, and the money, no matter how much the Western media fear mongering about it, the money that China spends in military only takes about 1.9 or 1 point something, less than 2% of their GDP. But you know how much they invest in education?
How much?
Over 4%, almost 5% of the GDP.
It shows because I've been talking to young people in China and they are really sharp. They're really sharp. They see through things. They know their history. They can have advanced conversations with me in English. Like Chinese youth are learning English by the millions. American youth are not learning Mandarin. So let's see how that plays out.
Yeah. So like here, I think one of the reasons that China is making so much progress, it does not come from nowhere. It because the government spends so much money in educating people, invest in the people, like over 4%, almost 5% of GDP investing in education for I think 12 years or 14 years nonstop. They spend less in military, but more in education and nonstop. And the priority is still the priority for the next 50 years or 100 years because it's been written in our next centenary goals, like developing science, technology, education are the key because the intelligent human forces are their strongest like advantage.
And you see it right
Yeah.
now. Like all of the AI companies, the startups coming out of China, mopping the floor with OpenAI. All of the EV engineers, all of the renewable energy breakthroughs, all of this stuff is coming from China. And the United States wants to make a fuss that the country that is biggest trading partners with the majority of the world has a military. I wonder why they need a military. It's just like a normal thing for a huge country that is going all over the world, trading and developing economies everywhere. It's a normal thing. You have to protect yourself. You have to protect your interests. The United States knows about protecting their interests, but I think a lot of people see China's interests as opposed to the United States. But in reality, the United States and China can get really rich together.
Tell us more about yourself and how you started your career as a vlogger, content creator on different social networks, because some of your videos went very viral. Comparing, for example, explaining socialism, communism,
Yeah.
and clear some of the misconceptions that people have about China and socialism. Looks like you're interested in socialism. How come?
Well, I just remember when Trump got elected and Bernie Sanders lost, all of that, it was just like, oh, people, democracy like doesn't work in this society. People are not going to vote for their interests. Why would they not vote for healthcare? I didn't understand that. Like it really, nothing made sense at that time. And so I just started reading a ton to figure out why. I actually started by reading MLK's autobiography. He's a great analyst of the American situation, the characteristics of the American uh, problem, let's say. He really kind of laid it out, and I thought he's so uncontroversial. Everyone in the United States, we have a day for MLK, everyone loves him. So I started with that, and then I kind of worked my way into reading biographies of Karl Marx and Karl Marx writings, and reading a lot of history, and I just realized, oh, it's the same system everywhere that is causing everybody's problems, and it's the thing that turns greed into destruction, and it's capitalism. The funny thing is, coming to China and learning so much about China, it really is like the thing that people who support capitalism think they support is what China's doing. China has the most vibrant market competition. There's like four of everything competing against each other here, maybe like 20 EV companies, and they have the lead in EV production and buying in the world. Explain that, and the government has a strong hand in it as well. I just toured Beijing Auto's car factory, and it's like so futuristic and so productive and so incredible. It's a complex, nuanced system, China's socialism. And yeah, I maybe I answered that a little bit too long, but I just started reading a lot. I realized it was the same problems everywhere. The main problem I saw in the United States was that people actually just didn't understand what the words capitalism, socialism, communism mean. So how can you even talk bad about them if you don't know what they mean? People were having the least productive conversations, just arguing past each other, not getting anywhere. So that's why I kind of just started breaking these complex ideas down in very simple terms. I kind of thought of where I was years before I started reading about these things and tried to explain them in concrete ways and easy to follow ways with small words. And a lot of people really appreciated it. And the people who hated it, at least they know what those words mean now.
But you went out of your way to read more
Yeah.
books, to break the echo chamber, to learn the other side of the world. Kudos, like that's really impressive.
It's not easy.
I know it's not easy because I started what I'm doing because I saw there's so much propaganda, so much misconceptions about China on social media. So I was like, okay, I need to speak up for myself, for China, to help people better understand that. A lot more people are doing what we're doing now. Can you help us understand the struggles of young Americans? I went to different platforms to watch videos and interviews with young people in the United States, and they have struggles financially, politically. Some of them do want change, but cannot. And then you also see MAGA successfully influencing a lot of young minds and leading some of them into a very dangerous path, as I see, because they're saying all these racist terms against ethnic minorities and other marginalized groups, and to women. They basically
Yeah.
want women to like stop working, go back home to be
Yeah.
housewives.
You got to promise them something because Trump is making everyone really poor.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you share with us what are the struggles that the young people in the United States are suffering?
God, young people just don't think we're ever gonna be able to buy houses, you know? And then I come to China and I'm like, oh, everyone's family has a house here in China. And then a lot of people are buying their like second, third properties now and they're building millions of houses all the time here. Like everywhere I go, I see more construction. And that gives people a lot of freedom economically, you know, if you're not worried about the roof over your head. And so many young people in the United States are worried about the roof over their head. They can't afford health care. And so maybe they finally get a job that provides health care for them, and that means that they can't leave it. You know, there's really not economic freedom for young people in the United States. Maybe you can say whatever you want, but you can't do whatever you want. You can't live however you want. And you can't get around your own city however you want because you don't have a great metro like all the cities in China do. You don't have high-speed rail with affordable prices to get around, you know, and go on vacation and explore and see your family affordably like China does. There are a lot of different kinds of freedoms that American young people are being denied because they're being squeezed economically by the ultra wealthy.
How do you feel about, like, say, the cost of living in China? I know, like, we went to supermarkets, we went to some shops
Yeah.
together, and you were always shocked by some of the prices of our food. So, how do you make up the prices for food, electricity, medical spendings, and
Yeah.
all these daily necessities? And what does it look like compared to the cost in the United States?
That is the easiest way to radicalize Americans, is just show them your bills. Show them your bills. China, show American consumers your bills. It's unbelievable. Well, first off, I want to say China's not perfect. Overall, it's a developing country. There are a lot of people who live in the rural areas still, but a lot are moving to the urban areas. A lot of people are getting better and better jobs. Um, and if, let's say, the wages are 20%, much lower than American wages, the cost of everything is like 10%. The cost of food, the necessity of bills like Wi-Fi for your house, really fast Wi-Fi they got in China, by the way. The cost of
We have
electricity, and
5G, by the way. And
it's
5G
so
like basically
fast.
5G plus, almost
It's so
6G.
fast. But that's the thing is that like I pay so much. I think my roommate and I split almost like $100 internet bill just for Wi-Fi, not phone service or anything. And it's not that good. We don't get it on the other half of the apartment, you know? And it's just like things keep getting more expensive for worse quality in the United States. And in China, seem to be getting more affordable or better quality all the time.
How much do you spend on like groceries, electricities, and heatings? You don't want to talk about
Yeah,
it?
I, I, it's the end of the month, and I'm thinking about the bills I gotta send to my roommate right now. But too much, and it's getting more expensive, and that's messed up. As technology gets better, as work becomes more efficient, the cost should go down, but things need to be more profitable, so the cost keeps going up. Like as we're transferring more and more to renewable energy, you just get free electricity from the sky. Why are people's energy bills going up? I'm asking. Why is this happening, Ching Ching?
In the United States, I don't know because all those things you mentioned, like electricity, heating, food, like grocery cost,
Yeah.
are very low in China.
They're really low. Go on Red Note. That's the thing that has been really opening everyday Americans' minds is going on Red Note and talking to Chinese people about how much things cost. It's shocking. I mean, Trump won in a large part because of grocery prices. These are things that affect everyday working people. And they thought, oh, the grocery prices, which started getting high under Trump's first presidency, right? That's when the inflation started because of his poor pandemic response. And they continued to get high and they kind of stabilized during Biden's presidency. Those grocery prices made a lot of Americans angry. And that was enough. They didn't really look into it more. Remember, they're not very literate. And so they just voted for Trump to get some change from the current
Oh,
situation.
wow.
So, China has so much political stability and so much support for their uh, federal government because their people have a nicer and nicer quality of life. A lot of people live very humble lives here. I don't want to sound like I'm over glamorizing it. It's a developing country. But everyone I talk to says, I love China. Things are getting so much better. 10 years ago, you wouldn't believe what this thing looked like. And I'm like, wow, tell me, what did it look like?
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
Yeah, like we went to the supermarkets. We made this video of buying the eggs.
Yeah.
Remember? And the I remember it was 19 kwai renminbi for 20 eggs. But remember we went to a relatively more
It
expensive
was a
supermarket.
bougie supermarket in a shopping mall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and my colleague told me you should go to like the fresh morning fresh market.
Yeah.
Actually, you can buy 32 eggs with 19 kwai. So like, I don't know. So my colleague told me like you should take Dante to there. Like he will had a even bigger heart attack.
Americans, come to China. You can eat all the eggs you want.
Seriously, seriously, I'm eating eggs like crazy because eggs are the healthy protein and has
Yeah.
everything.
And a
Yeah.
lower environmental impact
Yeah.
than a lot of other proteins like meats and dairy.
Yeah, but also, I saw some comments saying, well, then you should ask how much is your income, like ask the income of
Yeah.
people in the China and the U.S. and because they believe Chinese people earn less compared to the United States. If you do the conversion of the currencies, the thing is, doesn't matter how much you make, how can you get what you need with the amount of money that you make. I found in China, no matter how much money you make, either you are financially better off or you are poor, but you don't need to worry about food and electricity and heating. Like electricity and heating, there are the like China spends so much building infrastructure.
Yeah.
Every remote village is connected with the electricity. And actually in Tibet, even the remote village, like one or two household in the mountain, the local government will go there to dig a well in your yard, make sure you have water. Make sure you're connected to state grid, the very affordable electricity, state-owned company.
You're telling me the Chinese government, the CCP, is going to Tibet to dig a well and oppress them? They're digging a well of oppression. Guys, you heard it here.
Oppressing by
the
giving
Chinese-
you water and electricity.
The Chinese government is oppressing rural villagers, demanding that they dig a well in their property no matter what.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing. If you are poor, financially less fortunate, you still can find the food that you can afford in China. There are like the prices of everything like wide. You can find cheaper stuff. You can find super expensive stuff. They're all there. Just you can choose whatever suits your financial situation. So you don't need to worry about I said heating, electricity,
Yeah.
water. You don't need to worry about it. Housing might be more expensive in
Yeah.
China, but you don't need to really. Not everyone needs to buy a house. You can still can afford apartment.
Well, most people's families, I asked a friend of mine in Chengdu, he was saying, in China we have these issues. Like, if I want to buy a house here in Chengdu, an apartment, I will take out a mortgage and it will take me 30 years. And my friend I was traveling with, he is from New York. No one in his family owns property, and he just bought a house, and it's going to take him 40 years. And he makes over $100,000 a year. And so I asked my friend in Chengdu, does your family own a house somewhere in the town where you're from? And he's like, yeah, they own a giant house in our hometown. And so this is, not a necessity he wants to move to the big city and have his own apartment and all this kind of stuff. It's not a necessity, but it's like a plus. And I told him, welcome to capitalism. These are the private real estate developers China invited in to build all this housing for profit, and they're going to take a profit on it, you know, but it's a short-term high cost for a great long-term investment. Now China's going to have millions of surplus of houses. It's great. It's you know, that's just socialism with Chinese characteristics. You do a couple business deals for profit here. If someone's got some money, you say, hey, I can work with you. Come bring some of that money over here. And you figure something out that works for both of you. And then all of a sudden you have all the houses, you have all the factories, you have all the infrastructure.
Yeah. I think another thing you told me that really impressed you is how much effort China made in providing renewable energy, in saving the climate change. Can you share with us your thoughts, your observation on this?
Americans are not ready for this information. I tell people this, and I can tell it doesn't sink in. They don't understand the reality because China is the country with the most carbon emissions, but it's like 14th or 15th in carbon emissions per person. So we're constantly told, oh, China, they have all those factories, they're polluting so much with the coal emissions. Americans don't understand that China is producing as much new renewable capacity as the rest of the world combined, plus an additional 30% on top of that over the next 5 years. China is 17% of the world's population, and it is producing 80% of all of the new solar energy every year. And between 2023 and 2028, China is projected to produce 130% as much renewable capacity as the rest of the world combined. 17% of the population. Those numbers are so astronomical. They are so capitalism shattering. Whatever China is doing with their system is saving us from the biggest threat to humanity in our entire existence. Climate change can lead to mass crop failures. It can lead to destruction of so much infrastructure in coastal cities. It can lead to freak weather events that just destroy things and kill people. Did I mention crop failures? That's scary. And meanwhile, China is producing 60% of all of the world's vegetables. These numbers don't make sense. This has never been done before in human history. This amount of production in 17% of the world's population, 10% of the world's arable land, 60% of the world's vegetables. Jing, what are you guys doing here? What is going on? Americans don't understand this, and we're being told China is a big pollution wasteland, you know, all the factories, all the smog, the poor air quality. Guess what? You can't shut down a factory you don't own. China brought all the factories into China, and it's now operating them, you know, over time, converting them to renewable energy.
Yeah.
That's Marxism, guys. That's Marxism. What's so scary about Marxism?
Like, we were the biggest emitter.
Yeah.
You so we realize we manufacture for the whole world.
Yeah.
United States or other developed countries blame China for the emissions. Okay, so how about bring the factories back home? I know the U.S. wants to now, but they just cannot do that like within 1 year. But the thing is, we are producing phones, t-shirts, toys for the entire world. And back in the days, we also do all the garbage of the developed world. People from the developed country, when they come to China or any other Asian countries, they say, oh, so much garbage. Well, I mean, you're like polluted. That's the garbage from you guys. From the...
It's victim blaming.
Yeah.
The people want to blame China for their poor air quality. We sent our companies there to open factories. Here, we sent our companies here in China.
Yeah.
Then what do you think the cost is of making every single Nike in the world in one place? I would be betraying my Chinese fans if I didn't admit, you know, that China had a very bad issue with air quality. It was Harvard did a survey about this. It was like the top priority up with corruption. Corruption and air quality were the biggest concerns of Chinese people. And the government in China has had huge campaigns addressing corruption and air quality.
Yes.
So even though Chinese people aren't voting every 4 years on their president, like our definition of democracy, which was invented a long time ago by people who owned slaves, like, is that really the only version of democracy? But what I'm saying is that the people's needs are being addressed here.
Yeah.
It's a different system, and they have different ways of representing their needs politically. And then also some needs are just kind of, can I cuss? Some needs are just kind of f***ing obvious. Like, people need health care. Why did we have to vote to get health care in the United States?
I don't know. I think
People need health care. We should have free. It's a great
I
investment. It costs less for everybody. It's safer. It saves lives. You pay a little bit up front and you save on a high cost procedure you might need down the road if it goes untreated because you're too poor. People need free health care. It's a great investment. Why did we have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on a presidential election to decide democratically if people should have health care?
I mean, I think many of the problems that exist in the United States, entire world, not just people from China, the entire world, rest of the world are like, why do you guys still not dealing that?
Like, why are we still arguing about gun control?
Yeah.
Why are we overturning abortion?
It's like, those are very American problems, I would say. It's very interesting to see. Where were we?
We're not the only country who's fascist, Jing Jing. Have you seen Israel?
Speaking of Israel, I think you also try to raise the point about you notice. I think China is probably the only voice in the world now that one of the few voices on the world stage that dare to speak up for Palestinians.
Consistently.
Yeah.
Consistently. And the Palestinian genocide is just really, really, like, I just know so many people in the United States, so many young people. It's like really hurting us to see, and to feel powerless against all this. And then when the elections came up, people wanted to act like, there was a way you could vote to end U.S. imperialism, but it's so much bigger than that, and we're so far behind in really addressing that. Meanwhile, China has very strongly, straightforwardly, clearly denounced the genocide in Gaza and condemned Israel every step of the way, sent aid, legally, the legal way as much as possible. That means a lot. It does.
Do people in the United States know
They don't.
what?
They don't. They just don't understand. They have no idea what China is doing at all, good or bad or anything.
Why? Because that's not allowed to being talked about in the U.S. Because first, let me address some of the things. Like, China has been very consistent supporting Palestinians' rights back to like decades ago. We support this liberation movement for any oppressed group of people in any parts of the world.
Mao was sending them weapons. Can I say that?
Yeah.
I mean, China's foreign policy has evolved to be more practical and something that, 'cause that didn't work, right?
Yeah.
So they're doing things that are really sustainable and practical and can win in the long term and support peace and stability because they believe in people.
Yeah, and I remember like a few years ago, China brokered peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran, who had been arch enemy for a long time. China brokered peace between the two, and then China also brought the 14, fractions of different groups in Palestine.
In Palestine, yeah.
And they were the 4 representatives from the 14 fractions, different 14 groups were in Beijing to reach agreement, Beijing Declaration, that we're gonna put aside our differences, we're gonna unite to fight for the right of Palestinians. The fact that they feel only safe in China to have such a peaceful talk and made this declaration that called Beijing Declaration, that means the unification of Palestinians, that speaks volume, right? So that's also what China's been doing, supporting Palestinians, and also China has constantly sending all kinds of aids to Palestine. But people in the US don't know about that?
Not really. Yeah. It's just, and even there were some actually videos that went viral. Now that the tides are shifting a little bit, people are waking up and saying like, oh, China actually does oppose Western imperialism and supports like the development of all these struggling places in the world. So there have been some viral videos lately showing airdrops from a year ago that they went viral because they were saying they were Chinese aid being dropped into Gaza, but that's like fake news. So maybe it's kind of coming around. I don't know, maybe that's too difficult to mention in this segment, maybe,
Mm.
but that's part of the issue, right? Is that Americans have become so disillusioned with our media, with our journalism, when they see that they can't talk bad about Israel. Even after all of this, what we're seeing so clearly with our own eyes in HD on social media, and also, they're realizing that our media fails to understand China. All of the bad news we see about China is just made up or misunderstandings of real problems. And then we don't really see any good news, actually. So, all the bad news
Wow.
is just, we're realizing how strategic our media is. It's these journalists' job to go learn about the world. They get paid to go learn about the world, but then they get silent. So all of the people who get paid to go do research and be honest and report get roped into this machine that really ends up concealing a lot of the truth of the world from us.
Mm.
China's really consistent in supporting different countries' sovereignty and self-determination, and they believe that helping these countries to develop economically will give them economic sovereignty, and then that can lead them in the right direction in the long term. They've seen historically maybe their own policies geopolitically or other countries' policies. When you try to direct a people in what you think is the right direction for them, it can backfire and send them the other way. Like, look at all the meddling in Afghanistan throughout the years. So I think it's really consistent with that China supports what all the Palestinian organizations support, which is statehood and a return to 1967 borders, recognition at the UN. Those kind of things will deter Israel from taking more land, these illegal settlements. It will deter them from continuing genocide, all the war crimes. How can you expect Palestine to have any sovereignty when it's not considered a country legally on the world stage? So that's step one, and a lot of people are kind of being misled by all of the craziness in our media and all of the like anti-China things as well. And because that is called a two-state solution, they think it ends there. They think the fight for Palestinian democracy, for sovereignty, for safety ends with just a return to 1967 borders. But it doesn't. And everyone knows that, but that is the first step. Can I say one more thing too?
Yeah.
Israel doesn't want Palestine to be recognized as a country, and they don't want to return to 1967 borders. So people should just do whatever Israel doesn't want to do. Okay, it's not that complicated. Like whatever Israel is saying, like, oh, don't do that, don't do that. Just do that.
Right. Because China is without a doubt the scapegoat and target for the United States. We saw this drama with the whole tariff thing the past few months. I don't know whether this tariff war have already had some impact on people in the United States. And we all mentioned there are so many misconceptions that people in the United States have about China because of the media, fear mongering. You've been to China so many times. What you wish that people in the United States can try to understand China? What are misconceptions most of them have about China?
China is very safe. The people here are very happy. And China wants to make everyone rich. That's the bottom line, actually, is that China wants peace. They want cooperation and partnership. They see long term, if everyone plays to their own strengths, China's is manufacturing, the United States might be marketing, for example, or buying products, being consumers. We're great at that. If everyone plays to their strengths, then we can all get really rich and prosperous together. China sincerely believes that. Like you come here and everyone just wants to do business with you. It's not what I expected. Chinese people love Americans too. I actually didn't expect that. I had very high hopes for China. I thought I would be very biased coming here. I thought maybe I built it up too much in my imagination. And then when I got here, first off, it was way better than what I thought it could be. You know, the people were doing so much more, were so much happier. It was so much more full of life. It was so much cleaner and more technologically advanced, and the systems were more humane, way more than I thought. And the other thing was, Chinese people just love Americans. They love our culture, they love our music, our movies, our fashion, our art, our sports, our people, our TV shows.
But that doesn't mean we love your diplomacy.
They know what's going on. They don't love our diplomacy. Even the farmers I talk to in the rural villages are like, what's going on with that Trump guy? He's crazy, right? He lost his mind. He's completely lost his marbles. Because the most interesting part about all of this is that Trump had to backtrack on all of his anti-China policies of scapegoating China, fear-mongering around China, because he's made so many promises behind the scenes to the capitalist class, all of the rich property owners, the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos, and all of those people have known for a long time that China is where you go to get rich. And now China is where you go to sell your products as well. It's the biggest middle class in the world. All of those angles have been strategically prioritized by the Chinese government for decades. They knew that if we want to prevent an actual war, then we need to become needed by the United States ruling class, which are all the business owners, the capitalists. Elon Musk makes over half of his Teslas in Shanghai now. Is Tesla a Chinese company? You tell me.
His mother also lives in Shanghai.
Look at that. Geopolitics, like there's a lot of layers to this stuff, guys.
Yeah. So do you wish more people in the United States will be like you, who travel to China, see for themselves? And if you do, what do you think they should do before visiting China?
Download WeChat.
Yeah.
You need WeChat, you need Alipay, you need AMAP, that's Gauda. I think that's the main stuff you need, but also, you know, just do a little bit of cultural research, learn about a little bit of the history maybe, watch a documentary or two, watch some of my videos,
Yeah.
orient yourself a little bit, and just be really open-minded. And definitely come to China, see it for yourself. No amount of Western media against China or evil Chinese propaganda praising China is going to be as effective as actually coming to China and seeing it yourself. It's crazy, right? Like all of the Western media that hates China and paints it in a negative way says, oh, don't go there, it's dangerous, they're gonna arrest you, they're gonna oppress you, the government's so crazy, they're gonna like hack your phones and everything, like just crazy stuff, right? And it's so polluted and it's so gross and dangerous. And then all of the pro-China people, not even Chinese media, because Americans don't see Chinese media for the most part. You know, like we say Chinese propaganda. Where? You don't see it unless you really go look for it. Like if I Google Chinese propaganda, I'm not gonna find it. I have to Google specifically for the name of the Chinese media outlet if I want it to come up. You're not seeing both sides of the story automatically. So, sorry, this is kind of like a bunch of different angles at once. But
Yeah, but
you
okay.
you gotta come to
yeah.
China and see it for yourself, guys.
Yeah. What are some of the most memorable experience or stories you had after you come to China as a vlogger? I know you've been everywhere, and everywhere you go, people just love taking selfies, taking videos with you. They show up in your videos and show you incredible hospitalities.
Yeah.
But what are some of the most memorable experience that you want to share with the audiences back in the United States?
Yeah, I can't narrow it down because it's everywhere. It's all the time. Chinese people have a saying, "有朋自有朋来不亦乐乎." A traveler from afar will be a good friend. And this basically means if someone comes all the way across the world to see you, they really want to see you. They really want to learn about you. They want to be your friend. And I went to like 8 different cities in 1 month in January. People in every city told me this. And I would be like, oh, let me buy our drinks. Let me buy our dinner. Thank you so much for showing me this. Thank you so much for taking me here. please take this from me. I'm an American. It's not much, right? Like this is, don't worry about it. Everywhere, all the time. Every person told me this saying, I just couldn't believe it, honestly, how warm Chinese people were. Whether they knew me from my videos or not, strangers, everyone was so nice to me. And they wanted to show their country to the American who wandered here from the couple viral videos, you know. I can't think of a single moment because if I think too clearly about it, I'll get emotional. These people were really, really, like, really warm and open and fun and introducing me to their families. A complete stranger invited me to his home where his parents cooked for me and my friend on Chinese New Year, which is like the most important holiday of the year.
Wow. Do you dare to do that back in the United States? A stranger asked you to go to his house?
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't, yeah, it's different, right? Like I felt so safe meeting strangers here. And honestly, like every time I met strangers and just said, yeah, let's go for it. It was great. It was like way better than I could expect. So much fun. China is so much fun. That's the thing I really didn't expect is how much fun, how spontaneous it can be. Like I was bicycling from one nightclub to another, and there was this uncle driving by on his scooter playing some Chinese music. And so I just started singing along to the music. And he was like, okay, get on my scooter. What are you doing? Come with me. And I was like, okay, just park the bike share, jump on this guy's scooter, and he starts playing like American music for me to like sing along to. And I'm like, where are we going? And he just didn't answer. I like didn't care. We were just vibing, riding around Beijing
And
on
you were
the scooter
okay,
at
you were
night.
safe.
Totally. He was telling me, come to he was Mongolian, and he was telling me, come to Inner Mongolia with me, let's have a drink. And I was like, tonight? It's kind of far. So, you know, it's so fun, it's so spontaneous. It's really important for Americans to come here for themselves, but also for Chinese people. Chinese people are pretty shocked when they see Americans wandering off of the tourist path here. And that's a good thing. I want to be a good example of an American who wants to build friendship and connections with Chinese people. And so I'm so happy to be that like first foreigner in a lot of these people's lives, to connect with them in a positive way. Chinese people are so good at being role models of their country. I'm trying to learn from them, you know, and be proud of my country, what we are capable of. We're not there yet, but I think we are capable of really being great, hopefully, in the future.
Thank you. I think we are all doing this incredible job that is really needed at this time, just building people-to-people connections. When we start to understand each other, when we talk to each other, then less chances to have a conflict.
Yeah, especially if we're making money together. Americans, come to China and do business. That's why the trade war ended, is because so many rich people needed China to be making money here. Chinese people are ready. They got the factories. They want to sell to Americans. They want you to buy their products and sell them to other Americans.
Yeah.
They're ready.
Make business and also let's make friends.
Make business,
right?
make friends, have a drink.
Yes.
Let's party.
Come to China.
Come to China. Do tourism in China. Come to China and spend that American money here.